and introduce her beautiful daughter, Lindsay, Lieutenant Colonel Lindsay.
Is it actually recording? Because if the number's moving.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wasn't prepared to do this, so I had to ask one of my fellow church members if she had some cheaters she could give me, because otherwise I'd be reading it from way out here. I didn't have mine with me, but I'm good now. But I am honored this afternoon to introduce my daughter. I didn't realize that they had something already written up, and I was like, when she asked me, I was like, oh my God, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to start from the beginning? We might be up here for a while, but it's good. I'm going to go ahead and cover what she's got down here. So, Lieutenant Colonel Lindsay L. Thompson is a United States Army officer whose career reflects more than 21 years of dedicated service in command, intelligence, operations, and senior staff leadership. Commissioned through ROTC at Western Kentucky University, she went on to earn a Master of Business Administration from the University of Louisville and built a career marked by operational excellence, strategic insight, and an unwavering commitment to soldiers and mission. Her service includes multiple combat deployments in support of operations Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom, where she held key intelligence and operational leadership roles under demanding high-risk conditions. Throughout her career, Lieutenant Colonel Thompson served in a wide range of assignments spanning tactical units, joint and strategic headquarters, and executive level staff positions. Her roles included battalion and corps levels, intelligence leadership, company command, inspector general duties, battalion XO, and operations of officer assignments and senior advisory positions at U.S. Central Command and Battalion Command. Known for her ability to synthesize complex information and support decisive leadership, she was frequently entrusted with responsibilities requiring sound judgment, discretion, and clarity during moments of crisis and organizational transition. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson's military service medals. um, she's been recognized, it's my first time reading it, y'all. She's been recognized with numerous personal and unit awards, including the Bronze Star Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and other campaign service and joint decorations reflecting sustained excellence over a distinguished career. While her intended post service work includes authorship, leadership, leadership coaching, and public speaking, most notably through her book Mentor Me, Leadership Handbook for Gen Z. Her professional identity remains firmly rooted in her years of honorable military service. She continues to serve the broader community by preserving the legacy of those who served before her and by mentoring the next generation of leaders inspired by duty, discipline, and service. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Mu Delta Omega Chapter, and an active member of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church here in Radcliffe, Kentucky. With her faith and commitment to service, continue to guide her leadership beyond the uniform. So I'd like to present to some, how do we say that, Pastor? Present to others?
And introduce to others.
There you go. My daughter, in whom I am very well pleased. I am honored to introduce to you Lindsay Letitia Thompson.
Thank you, Mommy. You're a mess. Good afternoon. All right. So, which one of these should I be using? This one? Okay. All right. All right. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, let me begin by thanking uh, Commander Smalls and NABVET for actually allowing me to come out and speak with you all this afternoon. It is my honor to be in a room full of so many distinguished veterans and so many individuals upon which shoulders I stand. So thank you for your service. You are greatly appreciated. Please give yourself a round of applause. All right. So I'd like everyone here this afternoon to do me a favor. If you have a fond memory of a woman who helped shape you, raise you, or left an impact on your life, I want you to do me a favor and raise your hand. Awesome, awesome. Is there a memory that makes you smile, whether it be the way she laughed, or for me, the nightgown she always wore, or the way she hugged you when you walked in the house, or the way she always took your side against the big bad world? Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. All right, awesome. I'm sure everyone in here has that type of a memory when you close your eyes of your mother, your grandmother, your auntie. Now, if you can remember catching one or two act rights from that same woman, go on and put your hands down. If you've ever had to do that long walk to the backyard to get a switch off the tree, yeah. Or if you've ever dodged a random house shoe or flip flop thrown from across the room with remarkable precision, considering her arthritis and cataracts, go on and put your hands down. I ask you about these memories because I want you to reconcile that both sets of memories, those of the smiles and of the discipline, all originated from the same woman, our matriarchs, the pillars of our families and communities, the heavy hands that helped mold us, helped provide left and right limits as we discovered our true selves and began our journey through life. They built, cultivated, and encouraged a sense of confidence in us that was intended to withstand the doubt and the criticism that the world would inevitably cast upon us. But what I think we often overlook is the calculated effort of these women, what it took to instill a can-do spirit into their children, into their grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, while actively engaged in civil warfare to ensure society didn't tread over the spirit she'd spent so much time nurturing, but rather give it the space and the freedom that it needed to grow and thrive. A silent strength defined our aunties, our grandmothers, great grandmothers. In a patriarchal society where women weren't handed anything without a fight, where there were no passive recipients of change, a battle was waged for every inch that was achieved. How many of you are familiar with the women's rights movement? A few, I'm sure. Quick history lesson, picture it. New York, 1848. A group of women in upstate gather at a historic convention and compose a declaration of sentiments using the Declaration of Independence as a framework. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men and women are created equal. And just as they did in the Declaration of Independence, the Declaration of Sentiments listed the areas of life where women believed that they were treated unjustly: not allowed to vote, forced to submit to laws that they had no voice in creating, closed occupations, and when we were allowed to work, we were paid only a fraction of what men earned, not allowed to enter professions like medicine or law, not accepted to colleges and universities. And let's talk about married women, legally dead in the eyes of the law, no property rights, husbands having legal power and authority over their wives to the extent that they could imprison or beat them with impunity. Generally speaking, women were robbed of their self confidence and self respect and were made totally dependent on men. These injustices impacted every woman of every race, making the fight for women's rights a common crusade across all color lines and economic classes. But for Black women, to fight for women's rights and not for racial equality as well would have simply been asinine at best. Why fight to win rights that would still ultimately be denied you because of the color of your skin? So Black women entered the discussion and became pivotal to both the women's rights movement as well as the human rights movement, championing a wider scope of rights by addressing not only laws that impacted women specifically, but segregation laws, lynching, and economic injustices as well, issues largely ignored by other suffragist movements. Because of the racism within the mainstream movement, Black women formed their own organizations like the National Association of Colored Women, the NACW. Their motto, "Lifting as we climb," spoke to a determination to advocate for women's rights, but also to uplift and improve the status of African Americans. Case in point, Black men won the right to vote in 1870, but literacy tests, high poll taxes, and grandfather clauses had prevented many from doing so. The NACW wanted women to have the right to vote, but wanted to ensure that Black men could as well. As a response to systematic exclusion and discrimination Black women faced on college campuses, Black sororities, such as Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Delta Sigma Theta, Zeta Phi Beta, and Sigma Gamma Rho, were founded. Founders aimed to serve the broader Black community, focusing on addressing the double discrimination of race and gender. Again, fighting to secure a prosperous future for everyone. Although their contributions were largely overlooked, those of women like Mary McLeod Bethune, Mary Church Terrell, Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells Barnett cannot be overstated. Mary McLeod Bethune founded the National Council of Negro Women in 1935, the first Black woman to lead a federal agency when she was appointed by President Roosevelt as the secretary to lead the National Youth Association. Started a private school for African American students, which would later become Bethune-Cookman University. Mary Church Terrell, journalist, teacher, and one of the first African American women to earn a college degree. She was the first African American woman in the United States to be appointed to the school board of major cities, serving in DC. Sojourner Truth, abolitionist, activist for civil rights, born a slave but escaped with her daughter, and after going to court to recover her son, became the first Black woman to win a case against a white man. Delivered "Ain't I a Woman" at the Ohio Women's Convention, questioning the treatment of white women compared to Black women. And finally, Ida B. Wells Barnett, an American investigative journalist who documented the lynchings of African Americans in the United States in articles and through pamphlets like the Southern Horrors, Lynch Laws in all of its phases, and the Red Records that upended the popular belief that all Black lynching victims were guilty of a crime. I stand here today on the shoulders of so many women. Women whose desire to create a more inclusive, more just future outweighed their fear of retribution and retaliation. Women like Kathy Williams, who enlisted in the United States Army under the pseudonym William Kathy, the first female to enlist and the only documented woman to serve in the United States Army while posing as a man during the Indian Wars. Or Loretta Perfectus Walsh, the first woman to officially serve in the United States Armed Forces in a non-nursing capacity, enlisting in the Navy in 1917. Or how about Orpha Mae Johnson, the first woman known to have listed in the United States Marine Corps, joining the Marine Corps Reserves in 1918. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the women of the 6888 Central Postal Directorate Battalion, the only all-Black, all-female unit deployed overseas during World War II, and one of the reasons I take so much pride in donning this vintage uniform. We stand on the shoulders of legends. Now push forward, decades later, and women of all races are still serving as the moral litmus test for this country and the architects of our future's values. Women are mothers, educators, mentors, and headstrong community leaders, have been the primary transmitters of values like empathy, equity, and environmental stewardship to the generations that follow. We modeled these values long before they became cultural movements. And that same spirit of resilience, that same refusal to be defined by limitations, is alive and well in the women who continue to serve today. Women who didn't just inherit opportunity, but expanded it. Women like General Ann E. Dunwoody, who shattered a long-standing ceiling of being the first woman to earn the rank of 4-star, not in the Army, but in the entire United States military in 2008, proving that leadership at the highest level has never been about gender, but about capability. Or Admiral Michelle Howard, the first female 4-star admiral in US Navy history, who also played a key role in counter-piracy operations off the coast of Somalia. And let's not overlook leaders like General Lori Robinson, the first female officer in the history of the United States Armed Forces to command a major unified combatant command. These women didn't just enter spaces that were once closed to them, they redefined what leadership looks like within them. Although women are still significantly underrepresented in the top management positions, holding fewer than 10% of the CEO offices of Fortune 500 companies, those women-led businesses that are keeping pace with their counterparts are disproportionately prioritizing mental health, sustainability, community impact alongside of profit. We understand that the new definition of success for the next generation will center on people, not just performance. We've unapologetically stepped into male-dominated arenas across just about every industry. Glass ceilings that once prevented us from climbing to the pinnacle of corporate success have been cracked beneath the stiletto heels of those who have refused to allow anything to dictate what they could and could not accomplish. Although we've not yet reached a level of complete parity, we have managed to fight our way to the forefront, leading our male counterparts in arenas that were once considered out of reach or exceeding our meager abilities. Women have managed to surpass men in higher education enrollment and graduations, comprising nearly 60% of all college students. That emphasis on education has resulted in women also leading in a number of initiatives supporting pivotal aspects of our communities. Women are spearheading the charge in the battle to protect our environment and curb the effects of climate change. Some of the most visible and effective sustainable leaders today have been women. Wangari Maathai, the first African woman to earn a Nobel Peace Prize in 2004, founded the Kenya Green Belt movement. She empowered women to plant millions of trees to fight deforestation, poverty, and political oppression. Women have focused their attention on environmental policies, clean energy, and conservation science, leading organizations that consistently prioritize climate policy at higher rates. Women are closing the STEM pipeline for the young girls coming behind us. Today, we're not entering the STEM world, but we are also building the infrastructure that will bring in the next generation. Female founders of coding boot camps and STEM nonprofits and mentorship networks are specifically focusing on Gen Z girls, which is in turn creating a compounding effect on the generation behind them. And from trailblazers like Janet Rankin, the first woman elected to Congress, to Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman appointed to the Supreme Court, who profoundly influenced the legal landscape, redefining modern gender equity, to Vice President Kamala Harris becoming the first woman to serve as a US Vice President, women have continued to progressively alter our social and political emphasis. Women in politics have consistently been more inclined to advocate for policies benefiting society as a whole. Policies like paid parental leave, childcare, and ending gender-biased violence. Women's leadership in politics is globally associated with more inclusive policies linking directly to increased investment in community-based initiatives. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, an American abolitionist, suffragist, and poet, once said, "No race can afford to neglect the enlightenment of its mothers." No truer words have been spoken. The enlightenment of our mothers, our grandmothers, great-grandmothers, sparked the flame of resistance and change. Actively engaged in civil warfare over a century ago ensured society was ready for me and for you today. The invisible infrastructure of our society was built by and continues to be sustained by women. Our economic, political, and environmental contributions, much of what sustains society, caregiving, education, community organizing, is all work that has been disproportionately done by women. These contributions are often undercounted in traditional matrix of progress, but this invisible infrastructure is foundational to our sustained future. So as we leave this space today, think back to the woman you raised your hand for at the beginning, the one whose love shaped you, the one whose discipline corrected you. She didn't just raise you, she prepared you. She prepared you to stand in rooms she never had access to. She prepared you to speak in spaces her voice was once silenced. And that brings us to our responsibility. Because legacy is not something we inherit and admire, it is something we continue. We are the evidence of their resilience. We are the result of their sacrifice, and now we are the architects of what comes next. So when we talk about leading change and shaping a sustainable future, we're not speaking in abstract terms. We are talking about the decisions we make in our homes, the values we instill in the next generation, the courage we show when it would be easier to remain silent. Because sustainable change is not built in moments, it's built in movements, and women have always been the movement. We will continue. We will continue to lead. We will continue to build. We will continue to challenge systems that were never designed with us in mind. And we will continue to create a future that is not only sustainable, but equitable, compassionate, and just. Because just like those women before us, we are not waiting for change, we are making it happen. And one day, someone will stand on our shoulders. So let's give them something worth standing on. Thank you. Thank you.